Hi, I want to talk a little bit about how to store your wine. And what I'm talking about here is you've gone to the store, you come back, you've got a couple bottles, a case, or whatever you bought, and now what do you do with it? Okay, there's a couple things you don't want to do. You basically don't want to store it long term, at least in the kitchen. You for sure don't want to put that little cute wine rack that you found, it holds 5 bottles or whatever it is. Don't want to put that on top of the refrigerator. Worst place in the world. First of all, in the kitchen, it's hot. Secondly, it's on top of the refrigerator, which all that heat from the back of the refrigerator comes up over the top. Hot still. You're high up on top of the refrigerator, hot air rises. Hot. Don't do that. Okay, so that's one thing. Store it in a cooler place. You don't have to necessarily have this big expensive root cellar in the basement, but keep it cooler. Store it in a room or a closet or something that doesn't heat up. You don't want to store it where it's hitting that southern exposure, all that sun's beating on the wall and warming up the closet or the room. Try and keep it on a cooler room or cooler place in the room. Keep it in a darker place. And by dark, it doesn't have to be pitch black. It's just, you don't want where the sun comes up and shines on your wine for 3 hours in the morning. Not a good plan. So, kind of ideally, if you can, and if you're in an apartment, you're limited. If you're in a house, and depending on what part of the country or the world, you may have a basement. That was probably your best bet for long-term storage. So what I do, I have a big rack in the basement. I might show you that sometime. It's nothing fancy. It's just a utility shelf, and I have some little thingies set up so I can put my wine bottles in them. That's my long-term storage. So I get some, I cart it downstairs, I put it in the racks, and then I just gradually rotate through it. So as it works its way to the top of the rack, I pull them off the top, and then I bring them upstairs where they're available for me to drink. That way I can keep a selection. I don't have to run downstairs every time I want to open a bottle of wine, or if company comes over unexpectedly, or even expectedly. It saves me a trip down the steps. I bring them up from the basement periodically, and then I stock them in a different wine rack that I keep upstairs. Now this one's a little more decorative, and it looks fancier, and holds about 2.5 cases. So that's how I do it. Now you might find different ways to do it on your own. You may want to do it completely different. That's okay too. Just kind of giving you some ideas. Now the question always comes up too is well, does it have to be cold where I store it at? Or for my white wines, can I store those in the refrigerator? Yes and no. I mean, if you got a huge refrigerator, nothing else in it, yeah, fill the sucker up. Fine. But if you store it in a regular food refrigerator, that's actually too cold to serve. That takes it down to around 40, high 30s, low 40s in Fahrenheit scale, which is kind of chilly for wine. So if you're going to store it in the refrigerator, and I wouldn't store that much, I'd store a few bottles. If you're a big white wine drinker, 1 or 2 bottles, maybe 3 or 4, depending. You might have one of this, one of that, or 2 of your favorite, and 1 of something else. A selection there. So then as you pull one out, then you replace it with a warm one, let it chill. Now if you're expecting company, and you're going to go through a lot of wine, of course, put more in. But rule of thumb on that, if you're going to chill, or if you're going to use the refrigerator, you want to pull that chilled bottle out probably 20 to 30 minutes before you're going to serve it. Let it warm up to a little bit. It's not going to be hot in 20 minutes, but it's going to be not as cold. So more of a drinkable temperature. Now, by the same token, if you want to take a red and chill it down, kind of do the reverse of that. You take it off your shelf in the dining room or wherever, put it in the refrigerator for about 20 or 30 minutes. That'll bring its temperature down a little bit, so when you serve it, it's got a little bit of a chill on it without being frozen. So there's some ideas for you. Store it where it works best for you, but try and keep it if you can't keep it in a cool spot, keep it in an area where the temperature is fairly constant. So, constant 72 degrees, and again, I'm doing everything in Fahrenheit, so if you happen to watch this in a metric country, get your little calculator out. I might throw a few of these up for you. But anyway, back to my point. If you're going to store it, if you don't have an ideal place to store it, the wine cellar, then you probably want to keep it in an area where the temperature is uniform. Like I say, uniform 72 degrees is much better than up and down and up and down and up and down. So do that, and the second thing is keep it out of direct sunlight. That can really affect bottles of wine worse than anything else, is the sunlight. So hopefully that helps you out some. If you like this video, recommend it to some of your friends. Tell them about it, send them the link, do a little share thing, whatever it is. And give me a thumbs up too. Anyway, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.